My dad thinks everything is a conspiracy. He was like, yeah, I saw on the internet some aliens crashed in Minnesota. Only one survived. Now they're trying to communicate with it, find out their secrets, what they want, why they're here. I was like, Dad, Somalians, they're Somalians.
It is the BJ Show. Today's date, it's the 22nd. Did I get that right, John? 22nd of January, 22?
1/22/26.
1/22/26. Or 01/22/2026, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really a math guy, Brad. I was told there would, to quote Gerald Ford, I was told there would be no math.
John, I am trying to get used to my new headset, my other headset, which was a very nice headset. Thank you, Shelley Barr, but it died. And, well, it didn't die. The cord went bad on it, and I could not find a replacement cord. Very nice headset by Sennheiser. I've got a new headset, a cheapy headset, because I don't have the money to throw around in headsets like that. But does it sound okay to you, John? Does it sound any different at all?
It sounds terrific.
Okay. Well, maybe this will be better. Okay. This is the Brad and John Show. It is the show where we talk about all sorts of different things. And John is sometimes it's embarrassing how many compliments John gives me during a show. Sometimes I've been up to like 35 compliments. Hold on. My voice is going.
And while your voice goes out, Brad, let me criticize you and point out, are we some sort of podcast, or should we mention that we're actually a radio show?
We are a radio show first, and a podcast and a video vlog later. Matter of fact, you can listen to past episodes of the show on bjshow.co. That is the official podcast site. Or you can go to bjshow.us. And John, I have to tell you, I'm most pleased with looking at the analytics yesterday off of YouTube, because you know why?
Why is that?
John's A block normally always does the best of the three blocks. And that's a little bit disheartening to me, because the B block, John is the A block, I'm the B block, and the C block is you and I. And John is always leading the view count on bjshow.us, but not yesterday. The B block and the C block got quite a bit of action yesterday because...
Do you know what the difference is, Brad? Do you know where that traffic came from?
Traffic came from the fact that I am on Boomer YouTube, or Boomer Facebook, as you call it, and I said to all my Boomer Facebook fans, hey, listen to this episode because I have to outdo John on the number of people that watch it on YouTube. And that's what happened.
That's exactly what happened. And in real life, usually on any given weekday, I tweet out through my Twitter account, through my X account, A block, because that's what folks in Missouri politics care about. And I don't tweet B block and C block. And yesterday, for the first time in a long time, I tweeted B block and C block. So that's where the traffic came from, Brett.
John, you are freaking amazing. That's all I can say. And the interesting thing about it was we talked about Bill Eigel. He was the number one in Brad's top three, and he was the number one in John's top three yesterday, too, wasn't he? He had the dual personality thing going on yesterday, right, John?
It was pretty remarkable. Yeah, folks from Steve Ellman's campaign also heard our show yesterday, Brad.
As well as the John Conlon folks as well, too, or the Jason Law folks. It was interesting. But the interesting part to me is, God, do we get into this right now? I called Bill and left my phone number. Of course, he didn't call me back. See, Did
you leave a passive-aggressive message, Brad, that would suggest that maybe a conversation with you wouldn't be fun?
John, I did.
Or did you leave a jovial voice message?
I did it on the air. You heard it. I was nice. I was polite. I wasn't going.
Yeah, and you
hey,
complain
Bill.
that he's not advertising on the show, and you're a radio salesman, which is what you should be doing. And he knows that if he calls you, it's always going to end with a pitch for radio advertising.
Always be closing, John. Always be closing.
A, B, C, Brad. You know what? This would be a great thing to get into in B block and C block.
But we need to do A block, and that's because John can't wait to give you the top three. And you know who can't wait to give you the top three of JohnCombest.com? You know who that is?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And he starts off with...
In third place.
Oh, if A block is the front door to our show, well, I guess you could say Brad has kind of both of the back doors. But if the A block is the front door to our show, Lambert Airport is the front door to our region. That quote's from Eric Schmidt. He was on Channel 4 yesterday. They have a reporter named David Amilati. He's like their lead reporter, you know. He's like the lead guy that handles policy and hard news and such. And Eric Schmidt was talking about Lambert Airport. First of all, let's get to this first. You point out with great frequency that Eric Schmidt is from Bridgeton. And as I point out via Eric Schmidt's campaign speeches, he's not from Billions. He's not Trudy Bush Valentine. He's from Bridgeton. And he noted in this piece as a little gem that his parents still live in Bridgeton. So Senator Schmitt went on to discuss some of the things going on behind the scenes with Lambert Airport. And I wanted to include this today, not just because it's an important story for folks in our region, but also because you're more than a bit of an expert on Lambert Airport. Schmidt talks about how important it is to have a decent airport. He talks a little bit about some of the sillier design problems that the current airport has. For example, Schmidt says, right now, there's only gates on one side. If you notice that, there's only gates on one side of these terminals. That's insane. So a new terminal would have gates on both sides. People can connect quicker. We want more cargo activity. We want more things that will support the long-term growth of the airport. Now, this is a pretty extensive interview. I only read the transcript. I didn't watch the video, so I'm going off the transcript here. But Schmidt talks about where we are in the design process, where we are in terms of ranking with hubs between Southwest and American Airlines. And also, Eric Schmidt notes and David Amilati notes that there are concerns right now about the project. Amilati notes that the project is $2 billion with a B dollars over budget. And how the heck does that happen? So I want to leave time for discussion here because I know you have strong feelings about the airport. You've suggested in the past that there's no point in revamping the airport. Isn't that mainly the thrust of your argument, Brad?
Well, first off, hold on a minute. If I can correct something that you said, which you said that Eric Schmidt said, that's not true about planes on either side. Concourse C has essentially gates on each side of Concourse C.
Okay, so in one concourse, Senator Schmidt's incorrect is what you're saying, though, right?
Concourse C is the biggest concourse. The biggest single concourse. Now, if you look at what's happened with they've renamed everything. It used to be D. Now it's then it was Terminal. It was East Terminal. Now it's E. It was Terminal 2. Now it's East Terminal or whatever the hell it is. See, the problem is there's no traffic there. This would be like this would be akin to the problem with St. Louis, we've got a real small Amtrak station. We need to build a $2 billion Amtrak station, and more people will take the train. Get what I'm saying, John?
And you're saying that you have to build demand before you build the infrastructure. So there's no point in improving the airport if there's not a demand there.
What's frustrating to me of being a lifelong resident of the St. Louis Metro, you look at where we're located, you look at us on the map, okay? We've got the Mississippi River that comes right in front of the arch. We have the Missouri River, which has its confluence 20 miles or so, 10 miles north of the Mississippi River. So the two major rivers in the United States, the one river flows in the other, but for all intents and purposes, the two major rivers in the United States are here in the St. Louis Metro. We have more interstates that come through St. Louis than any other city. We're probably in the top 10 as far as the number of interstates come through this city. Okay, we should be this incredible transportation hub, but we're not. It's Memphis or it's all these other places. And the problem is, can I tell you? There's three problems with the whole state of Missouri, specifically the Missouri area. There's three problems, three words, I should say. 3 words is the situation. You ready for this?
Give it to us, Brad.
Show me state. We are behind everything. And what Eric Schmidt essentially is justifying what I say, the show me state. Well, all these other states have concourses, have airports, have concourses on both sides. That's what we need. Well, the problem you've got is that they built airports in the middle of nowhere. Our airport is built on the north side of I-70 to the point where on one point where you go by the east terminal there, the interstate is no more than 150 feet from the highway. So they can't go south unless they...
Yeah, that's a great point, Brad. And you were about to get, instead of just kvetching, you were going to give a solution. And what was your solution?
build it and they won't come. That's
okay. So in other words, just complain and don't try to do anything. When we talk about being productive, Senator Schmitt says Southwest, though, is the growth opportunity. And there's parts of these conversations, he goes on to say, Southwest is now partnering with international carriers. St. Louis is about being Southwest Airlines. St. Louis is about their number 4 airport. So you might have more connectivity for the international routes because of who they're connecting with or to go other places. And Brad's headset is gone. It's a shame because I was looking forward to more kvetching and fewer solutions.
Am I supposed to respond to that? See, the problem is, here you go again, John. If you would figure out the percentage of people, first off, let's do some math on this. The percentage of people who live in the St. Louis area, 2.5 million, MSA, TSA, ADI, whatever you want to call it, okay? 2.5 million, okay? What percentage of that 2.5 million, flies? I would say maybe 8%?
And 20% of them jam a little Debbie in their mouth and have to go on pause and can't talk.
And of those 10% people that fly, maybe 0.2% fly internationally. So what the hell do we need international connections for?
And I think that's a great set of non-solutions you've given here, Brad. And that's why you should be a United States Senator, because you can kvetch and complain, but you don't have any positive solutions.
Okay.
Hey, you know who has solutions, Brad? Story number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
Yesterday, we discussed the data center conundrum in Franklin County and the overflow crowd that showed up to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to make their feelings, their emotions, and sometimes their facts heard. More details came out in today's edition of the Washington Missourian by reporter Jeff Folsom. His headline, Shaw Nature Reserve outlines requests for data centers at Franklin County, as Franklin County tables the issue. Now, yesterday when we breezed through this story, I mentioned that there were some folks that wanted a 1-year moratorium and then a 4-month moratorium and then a 1 month and then finally 6 months. But here's where Jeff gives more detail than I provided yesterday. The Franklin County Commission has the final decision on whether the county continues tabling data center regulations and any rezonings. No public meetings are currently scheduled on the topic. So you're likely an expert on this, Brad, because you've had a lot of dealings with planning and zoning commissions over the years. The Planning and Zoning Commission can make one decision, but the county could come in and say, hey, we're not going to table all data center regulations, or hey, we are going to table them for another 6 months. So let's get to where Folsom provides more specificity today than I provided yesterday. After tabling the discussion to the Planning Commission's February meeting was discussed, Planning Commission Vice Chair initially motioned to have a year-long moratorium on data centers, similar to what is in place in St. Charles County. But the problem with that, as was pointed out by County Planning Director Nicole Zilke, that a moratorium would require an additional public hearing, which would require public notice. And then there would have to be a vote on a 1-year moratorium. But the 6-month moratorium could be passed by the Planning and Zoning Commission just the other night on Tuesday. So that's exactly what happened. So yesterday when I was describing this, I kind of breezed through it and I was a bit flip in describing that timeline. So I wanted to make sure that we got that. Folsom also notes something that I noticed yesterday. I went to the Franklin County website and I clicked on the YouTube video of their public video, which has already more than 6,000 views of the live stream. And there were hundreds of people in overflow rooms and waiting in hallways. And you'll appreciate this, Brad. The live stream was on somehow about a 30-second delay. So folks were watching the live stream in a conference room down the hallway. So when people in the main hearing room would clap and applaud and essentially make a scene and then calm down, 30 seconds later, you'd hear people in a hallway people in a conference room down the hallway making a scene and clapping and being loud. It was quite discombobulating. So where we are today, Jeff Folsom points out a bunch of comments from the folks from the Shaw Nature Reserve. And a curious note here that you might know, Brad, that I didn't know. An attorney for the Echo Camps came out and said, well, it's true that St. Charles County has put a 1-year moratorium on brand new data centers, but, quote, the moratorium only went into place after 12 data centers were already built. So in other words, St. Charles County has a ton of progress, what some would call progress, on data centers before before the county said, whoa, no more data centers for a year. So that's different than Franklin County saying, hey, no data centers, period, for 6 months. And as a teaser to number one, which I know we're going to get into just briefly, the attorney for the Echo camps, David Baylord, says, quote, I also want to point out that I read yesterday that the county of Warren County has approved a data center and submitted that to the council for final approval. So in other words, I think what the Echo Camp's attorney is saying here is, look, St. Charles County's made a ton of progress. They're just hitting the pause button for now. And Warren County's moving ahead as well. Let's get with it, folks.
See, the angle on this that I can't believe nobody has taken, and I've talked about this already. John's going to throw the deedum tots at me.
There's no P.
Okay, the deedum tots at me. And what does that mean again, John? Explain for new listeners.
It means we've discussed this many times on the show. And what gets to us is that everybody complains about wanting their cell phone to work, but nobody wants a cell phone tower built. Here we go again.
No. My point is there already is a large data center either in the outskirts of Washington or on the very edge of the city limits of Washington. The Mercy Hospital data center has been there for, I guess, like 10 years now. And
you did a great job describing that whole thing in detail yesterday.
And Brad, nobody talks about it. And to the point where are people's kids being sterilized by the Mercy data center? Is there noise by the Mercy data center? Is the electric rates in Washington gone up? Well, they probably have like every place else, but that's a whole other story. And if I were the guy making the charge, I would say, hey, you Franklin County people, how many of you have been to the Mercy Hospital right there on Highway 47 and 5th Street in Washington? And probably 2/3 of maybe 3/4.
They would raise their hand and you say, guess what? They have a data center here.
Yeah.
Now, you neglect the fact that data center also has an urgent care down in the basement.
No, it doesn't.
So you can take your kids in there when it's late at night and you don't want to go to the doctor, and you can sit next to some old bat who's hacking up a lung, and then some little kid named Kiki who apparently has the runs and can't make it to the bathroom in time. That's always a good time at the urgent care. I can't wait to get to story number one. Let's hit the button.
John, people were trying to eat that breakfast.
The number one.
Yeah. And thankfully for them and their glycemic index, they weren't shoving a little Debbie in their mouth while John does the top three. Warrenton Alderman OK Data Center Complex, brought to us by Mark Schlinkman of the Post-Dispatch. Now, I bring this up because it's a juxtaposition of the two stories. And we don't have a lot of time here, Brad, left in A block. But Mark writes, city aldermen have given the green light to build a data center complex on 337 acres near Interstate 70. The 6-0 vote on Tuesday, 6-0. They move ahead with the project. It was in contrast to recent problems. And then Mark goes on to point out things in Forestell, things in Franklin County. A gentleman from the Warren County Economic Development Council, Steve Etcher, says this project alone will increase by 110% the tax revenues flowing into our community. So I'll spare you all the details here, Brad, in the interest of time. But the thing that I wanted your input on, because you know this area as well as anyone, how is it that we could have a proposal, we as a region could have a proposal in Forestell that's met with strong opposition, and Franklin County, particularly the Gray Summit location, big opposition, overflow traffic. And then we have just to the west of us in Montgomery County, Amazon's building a data center that doesn't seem to have much pushback. And then we also have a Warrenton data center that passes 6-0. Why do some data centers run into a lot of opposition and other ones don't?
It's because of the people that live in those areas. The Warren County people are, first off, I'm surprised that anything passes what did you say, the Warren County Commission, 6-0? Is that what
Yes, 6-0. Yeah. The last time they voted on that, it was Wendy Nordwald's peekaboo dress.
They must have increased the commission, because when I was going before the commission years ago, there were only 3 dudes right there, and 2 of them were in bib overalls. But what does that tell you? I could give you a whole dissertation on this, John. It's because of the fact that those people are growth-minded people. They welcome people, except for transmitter sites. They welcome people into the community, and they want to grow. They want to be financially, sound with good tax base and the other thing. And the rest of the people in St. Charles County and Franklin County, it's gotten to the point where they're against everything. Everything. You can't do anything anymore. So what I think we should have, I think the whole solution to this, I think that they should hire Bill Hennessy as their spokesperson in Franklin County and have him going down.
How would he label them?
I don't know. Bill's a nice guy. I shouldn't even said that. The sad thing about that is, well, we'll go another time. So, John, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, the crazy part of this is that there's so much being made over the fact that, see, all the counties, all the state has to do, and instead of Mike Keogh doing taxes on daycare and stuff like that, just essentially say, okay, the complaints about data centers are that your electric bill is going to go up. Write a state ordinance instead of doing goofy stuff like Ricky Schroeder's doing with ticks and stuff like that. Write an ordinance or a state law that states that these data centers have to be power self-sufficient. They will be off-grid. They have to have their own power generation, and this is the way it's going to be. You bring in your big CNG, compressors, and you power them with natural gas, or you power them with solar, or like the Ivanpah thing where you power them with, the Ivanpah thing we talked about. You know what the Ivanpah thing is?
No, what is it?
The Ivanpah thing was this great thing done, I believe, I think it was started under the Obama phase. And what it was instead of having solar panels, it had a big circle of mirrors. And in the middle of that circle was this tall tower, and all the mirrors focused on that tall tower. And the mirrors would reflect the sun, and the heat would all radiate to that tall tower, and the heat of that tall tower would get to be like 1,000 degrees, and it would generate steam, and it would run a generator. Well, the problem with that is it got federal money, it got California money, and it's like 20% of what they claimed it would. But the big problem was, guess what happens when birds fly through the Ivanpah solar system? When they hit the rays, they become instantly incinerated to the point where the people that work there call the birds streamers, where they literally spontaneously catch fire, and they fly down, they fall to the earth on fire. And they estimate that 6,000 to 12,000 birds per year are incinerated by the Ivanpah solar site. So that's what we need.
An added benefit. Isn't that population control of unwanted birds?
Right. If you got those birds that hang around and poop on your car and stuff like that in your neighborhood, you could say,
Brad, people are trying to eat breakfast. Let's not use words like that.
Okay, John.
Brad, I think you still have to chug that Mountain Dew in the commercial break. Get to it.
John, I have to tell you, I was almost going to stop you during your A block there, or your number one, because of the fact that you started to get funky. But I realized I dropped my Little Debbie into the computer, and I pulled it out, and then you got good. So,
hey, you know what I always say, Brad? Never pull it out.